Hi, this is Joni, holistic health teacher, coach, consultant, and guide. Today, I want to revisit once again some personal experiences to offer remedies to modern common health issues that so many people experience, most specifically skin rashes today. And you'll hear me say a million times over the fact that we need to listen deeply to our bodies. 5 years ago, I wrote a blog post that motivated several women to reach out to me saying, "Me too, me too." If you've listened to this channel, you've certainly heard me say, listen to your body. I don't love to go into my personal experiences, but given I came into this work by resolving my own personal health issues, sometimes sharing firsthand is beneficial. I'm forever saying listen to your body because I've encountered a few instances where my body was trying to talk to me. It was trying to tell me something. At times I listened. At times I have definitively ignored it. Ignoring it, I just kept going. I kept going because I wanted to. And at times I kept going because I had to and I needed to in order to make life happen. Upbringing, circumstances, conditioning, bills, we all have them, right? The left side of my body, controlled by the right brain, first surprisingly screeched at me in 2011. I recently posted a video on right brain versus left brain, which will all better explain that connection of the left body to the right brain and vice versa. So look for that below, and I'll have it pop up at the end of this video as well. An initially quite severe scenario, it has ebbed and flowed over time. With immense care, I'm still working through the final stages of transmuting some tiny aches and pains today. Awareness, understanding, and commitment to practicing daily rituals are what have allowed for that shift to occur for the better. My Rolfing, or structural integration practitioner, was the first to alert me that my experiences were rooted deep in the psoas. From this place, the psoas are the larger muscles that live near the center of the body. The pain moved throughout my entire left side, so beginning where the psoas is attached near the lower ribs, I could feel it in my back, moving down into the lower back, the hip, the lower belly, and the front side of my hips, so the hip flexor area, like crazy. That was especially painful there in the hip flexor zone. And at its worst, it even extended down to where the psoas attaches inside of the inner thigh. So it's different for everyone where exactly it attaches at the inner thigh as well as lower back. It just shifts, it's not exact for every single human being, but the pain went down all the way into the inner thigh and down into my left foot, as well as up into my left shoulder when it was at its worst. So with a very high pain tolerance, I was in awe of how extensive and painful it was, to the point of waking up every morning curled up in a fetal position with no desire to move. I would pry myself open, take a hot shower, or sometimes jump into the hot tub to better unfurl and drag myself to yoga. Even though the yoga practice was uncomfortable, because of the heat, I think mostly, and just moving, it opened up my body further to get better through my day, the work day. Probably not the best program, but to keep in mind, my body and mind were, fighting with one another in a sense. And so this daily yoga practice in some ways was helping me get in through the day, but probably wasn't necessarily the best thing overall. But I just had to do life. I just had to do what I needed to at the time, right? As we all do. So to this mysterious issue, I lost some prime time. I was really laid up for a long time in a lot of ways. No doctor nor practitioner of any kind could pinpoint what was going on further, other than what my Rolfer had offered. With a hint from a friend at my yoga studio, I narrowed a lot more down to adrenal fatigue. Years later, my MD in functional medicine doctor determined I was correct. To reconcile, I scaled my entire life back in a huge way back then, and after years later, this is like 2017 that my doctor solidified, that what I figured out on my own was probably correct. I just had to scale everything back, personally and professionally. I also had to step far outside of the realms of Western medicine to skyrocket the healing process. which still wasn't fast. Today, I was motivated to speak on skin rashes in particular, because this was another instance where my body was trying to talk to me, right? So my face broke out in this incessant rash. It actually started on my chest. I had been in Marin County, and I was soaking up sunshine and trail running, working and traveling simultaneously, and it just happened to be a big year for poison oak growth in that area. I'd never contracted poison ivy or poison oak, despite growing up around it. Some people are more susceptible, I think, but it was in abundance that year, according to the locals. So when I felt a little tingle on my chest, I thought a bug had bitten me during the night or something, but it turned out, and 2 different nurse friends labeled it as poison oak. I grabbed all the recommended remedies, and then after a couple weeks, it had subsided, but it wasn't fully leaving me. So a doctor friend said it could be any number of ailments that often go undiagnosed, which is becoming more and more common in our modern age. It began on my chest, spreading up my neck and my chin and my face and my forehead, all the way up to my hairline. It was blistery and hot and itchy and pretty unattractive. It went on for weeks, and then it went on for months. According to the doctor I saw initially, who first thought it was poison oak that had become internalized, which it probably was and could have been, at some point after a few weeks, he says it's no longer actually the poison oak that's in the human system, even if that was what had originally inspired it. So long story short, by month 5, I had seen 3 different doctors who all put me on different medications without a true diagnosis. None of their guesses at remedies healed the issue. And one of the medications was an intense steroid that, just like the doctor warned, made me feel a little bit crazy. That was not fun at all. The dermatologist I later consulted once back home said, well, we think this is related to rosacea, and in this mountain town we see a lot of this, especially in women your age. I was like, what? But he didn't seem too concerned about why it's so common, nor why he saw it primarily in women my age. Turns out this common skin agitation is directly related to stress. Thankfully, by the time I saw him, I had already been on the self-healing path for weeks. My conclusion finally came when I became really honest with myself about what was really going on in my life. While I was out having the best time ever, deep down inside, I was being triggered. My nervous system was in fact triggered like crazy from past events in my personal life. Old trauma reactivated by a situation that I knew logically could not or should not be reoccurring, but my body was trying to tell me otherwise. The good old fight or flight response was reactivated because our bodies naturally want to protect us from harm. On the surface, I was having the best time, but underneath it all, I was stressed, worried, and unsure. Once back home, I first cleaned up my diet to be sure nothing there was the cause, as we do within my personal and professional life, right? We look at the basics. I then took to my yoga mat, I took to meditation, I incorporated a lot of breath work, and I took to copious amounts of self-care. I put a microscope on what was going on, and I rested. I spent time laying horizontal and breathing deeply into the base of my belly every day, resetting the parasympathetic nervous system, allowing my system to realign itself. This entire process turned out to be very similar to the process I employed to rectify my fatigued adrenal glands mentioned at the beginning of this video. Simple. No specific pranayama, which, if you're familiar with pranayama, this is the breathing practices used within the yoga practices, within the yogic system. No fancy breathing practices rebranded from pranayama either. A lot of who's who in high performance and elite sports are putting out, for years now, they've been saying, do this box breathing. Well, box breathing is actually derived from the yogic practices from pranayama and is now being employed and has been for years by the Navy SEALs and all sorts of other high performance groups, right? Don't get me wrong, I totally back all of those breathing techniques that have been rebranded because they are rooted in ancient practices and they really do work. But in this case, I listened to my body, asked what it needed, and employed a really gentle, deep breathing all the way into the base of the belly, expanding on all 4 sides of the body, slow and sure, for as long as I could make time for every morning and every night. I just got horizontal and kept it really simple. This placing attention on the issue, placing more attention on the breath, clean nutrition, quality hydration, and self-care is what it took to resolve the rash. This, unlike the expensive medications I was put on, did not cost a dime. During stressful times since, I've felt a definitive twitch under the skin in my face, usually on the chin, and I listened. I took to those practices again and watched it go away before it actually even manifested. When we haven't fully resolved past trauma and past stressors, the body holds on to them. I promise, whatever's going on, no matter how much kale you eat, no matter how much you exercise, any issue we have rooted in the emotional realm is truly living in our tissues and just might eventually manifest itself in the physical form, in the body, on the body. It may also manifest in our relationships, our current, more detrimental habits that we can't kick, our work, our financial realms, and our overall abundance. Everything is connected. The amount of unidentified disease out there is rising exponentially, but it's exactly that. It's dis-ease. Disease, yes, and dis-ease. And so much of it is derived from stress. After that blog post on this skin rash issue in 2017, I had so many women reach out. One in Hood River, Oregon, was previously a lawyer who told me about how she fought face rashes for years. She was so exponentially stressed out that she left her career in law, and then she too became a yoga teacher and learned how to shift her overall state of being to become not only well, but also a lot more sane, relaxed, and happy. Another friend in Los Angeles has experienced the same with the impetus of her rashes. Her story is highly personal, and I won't go into the many layers because a lot of times it's not just one thing, it's many layers, which is what I've experienced as well. Hers were deeply rooted in massive relationship stress, to put it lightly. She was already highly devoted to a 90-minute daily yoga practice, very clean eating, very much on the self-care path. But like so many of us, she had to make shifts within both of these holistic practices to suit her needs and say goodbye to stress and therefore completely remedy her skin issues. My prescription is to first clean up the basics: food, hydration, movement, exercise, breathe, relax, reset, find gratitude in the smallest of life's pleasures. That alone might just be enough. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of life, this is a call to move from leading with the head to leading with the heart. Listen to your body. The body does not lie. If this hits home and you'd like to book a session to learn more, I'd be honored to take a look, offer a neutral perspective, and start with where you are. Just figure out together what your starting point would be to take you from where you are today to where you want to be. Please see my contact info in the description below. Stress is a beast, and holistic health is our birthright. My intention is to bring you digestible snippets of holistic habits to improve your health and well-being. We need your clear mind, healthy body, open heart, and bright eyes now more than ever. I've started these new channels separate from past work to serve anyone unable to gain support during these pretty crazy, unprecedented times that while we want to believe they're moving forward and everyone's getting vaccinated and it's going to be fine like tomorrow, chances are it's going to take some time. These are interesting times to say the least, with very interesting things happening across the board, including in media. So please like, subscribe, and share this info if it resonates with you. That one small action can simply help more people to be well. Take care and see you next time.